Hello everyone, this is Abra, and I'm back to give my 2 cents on the comic Skits The Son Book 1 by Michael, I hope I'm saying this right, Michael Siegenthaler? I am so sorry, I don't mean to butcher your name. The story of Skits is an interesting one. I stumbled upon this on Indiegogo, and I was drawn in by the art. Kind of has just a really surreal art style, which is fitting for the story. The story kind of involves this dreamlike world. I'll get into that in a moment. The premise behind Skits is very interesting. It was like the hook and the fish. It just got me. He was so impacted by this strange dream that he had. That's what inspired the comic. What Michael decided to do was slight variants in each of these 3 different books. It's the same story and everything's essentially the same. However, it veers off a little bit at the beginning of the story. They're not huge differences, but I thought that was kind of neat to add incentive to get the additional books, so you just don't feel like, oh, I'm just getting another variant cover. Now you're getting a variant story. I'd be interested to see how each of the subsequent books go ahead and, kind of elaborate more on the variant. The story behind Skits, it has this really interesting main character named Skits. I don't know, you could maybe say it's short for schizophrenic. When the reader starts out the book, you kind of get the impression that this is all made up in his mind because he is recounting the events of this adventure to a doctor or a therapist in a mental hospital. He's all tied up in a straitjacket, so you're like, this guy's bonkers. But as the story progresses, you start to get the feeling that maybe he's telling the truth, especially by the end of the comic. And I don't want to give anything away because it's definitely an interesting read and an interesting concept. And the fact that it was based on dreams. The way it starts out, the therapist told Skits, hey, you escaped. You've been missing for 2 years. We've been trying to find you this whole time. No one knows where you've been, including family members. So where were you? He says he goes to this whole other planet. And of course, the doctor is very skeptical, as one might expect. And he tells about how he woke to find himself in this field and a chair started talking to him. And he tells about how he just starts off on this adventure. He ends up meeting these humanoid creatures. They can talk. They kind of look like humanoids, but they attack him. And then they immediately say, oh my goodness, we didn't mean to attack you. We didn't realize it was you. And so Skits is taken aback. He says, you know me? How do you know me? And they're like, oh yeah, of course we know you. You've been here before. And he's like, I've never been here before. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme or an occurrence throughout this story. There's a war that's breaking out on this strange planet, and we don't really know why yet. I'm sure that'll be explained in subsequent books. The characters are really interesting. Some of them kind of look like, woodland elvish folk. Then there's some characters later on that try to assist Skits because he has to get off of the planet, and they look like almost anime type characters with their outfits. But yeah, this one's very interesting. I'm intrigued to see where it will go from here. The art style is different. It doesn't follow traditional methods. Things will kind of look out of proportion, and I noticed Skits, his look will change from page to page, but I think it works with this because, again, this is a dream world, and you kind of get the impression that as muddled as things get in dreams, it's kind of a little bit meant to be muddled in the art style in the book, because things aren't always so clear in dreams, and we try to recount them and they seem just foggy. There's also another thing that how it was put together, it kind of looks like it was written, in a spiral notebook. Somebody was recording their dreams, and it looks like some areas where it's smudged. There are all these little, I almost wonder if they're Easter eggs, and that's something I'd have to, pose the question to Michael. Hopefully he would shed some light on it, but it almost seems like there's little Easter eggs in here. One of the sections was giving the description of iron, the metal iron. There's words, and I really tried to get in and read it, but unfortunately I just couldn't quite make out anything coherent with all of the sentences, but I tried. There's also an Easter egg in the beginning where it looks like he's giving a shout out to Dan Frega because it has a little drawing there and it says Frega Boom.
Free up!
So that's kind of cool. I liked this one. It was fun. I plan to go ahead and back the subsequent books, and I'm curious to see how this adventure evolves. If you have a chance, please go on over to Indiegogo and check it out. It's called Skits The Son Book 1. Thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. This is Abra again, and this was my 2 cents.